Hello and welcome to 3D Drawing for Your Model Railway. In today's lesson I'm going to start working on some things that I need for my layout of Tunbridge West Yard. So I'm going to start by looking at some sleepers that are transported around on the back of salmon wagons. So I've got several Engaged Society kits for salmons, but obviously I want to produce the sleepers for the loads. So I've done a bit of looking around on the internet and I've found I've obviously got these images from Paul Wade. I've also found an image, excuse me, on the internet of the actual sleepers itself and the dimensions for them. That I've found on the Manchester Model Railway Society page. I think the drawing was done by Colin Craig, but I'm going to use it under the fair use policy. And, we're just going to be using it to create the dimensions around our sleeper, and then produce little bundles. So if you look at the picture, this first bundle looks like it's a bundle of 6. This wood strip along the top just ends at the end of the first 6 sleepers. But every other bundle after that is a bundle of 7 sleepers. So I'm going to produce these in like little packets of 7 sleepers by 3 sleepers high. So we're just going to be drawing one sleeper with this packing strip across the top and the 2 sets of hand roll clips that are cast into the concrete. I will be doing something underneath to produce them as to one unit to give them a little more strength. But that's essentially how we're going to go about producing these. Okay, so jumping into Fusion, the first thing I want to do is insert the background image that I found. So I'm going to insert canvas and insert it from my computer. And then I've got to find the folder they're in. So this is the one I'm looking at. It's going to be placed onto this back surface here, and I'll click on OK. So if I zoom in on the image and spin that round. Okay, so you can see we've got various different types of sleepers. Now I've found they've got several pages, and it depends on the period you're modelling. I'm modelling sort of 1980s, 1990s Network Southeast Third Rail area, so I'm going to be looking at these two. And what we've got here is this is the original design that was installed in the 70s, 80s, and there's a much smaller centre section here, and they found this was cracking a lot, so it was upgraded to this version in the 80s and 90s. This F24BS for third rail. Now, the difference between a standard sleeper really and a third rail sleeper is if you look on the end, the third rail sleepers have a flat section, whereas a standard one slopes downwards. So we're going to be using this to create our side profile. So if we look at the bottom, we've got our scale ruler, which is obviously really helpful. So we can right click, calibrate the canvas, and then you can use this to calibrate on. So I'm going to go from, I start as close as I can to this line there. I'm going to do it over a longer distance, so sort of up to 10 feet here. Because the longer the distance, the more likely you are to have less variance. Whereas if you're doing it over just 1 foot, you know, the tiniest movement on your mouse might make a big difference. So doing it in Engage 2mm to the foot, I'm just going to do it as a standard 20mm over that distance. Okay, so we've now got this drawn in, this canvas imported in. The next thing we're going to do is just obviously work on the drawing of it. Okay, so we'll create a new drawing on this flat surface here. Obviously pick whichever one you want. I'm going for this F24BS, and I'm just going to start by simply drawing a line along the bottom edge here. Okay. And then I'm going to look, because I'm going to mirror this over so that both sides are going to be the same. I'm going to look to draw a line up at the centre point here, so just find that centre point by dragging along to find the midpoint, and then draw that upwards. Draw the same line on this side, and then I'll start to trace this around. Mm. Find that level. I'm going to come down to that level there and then across. Okay, so I've only drawn half of it so that both sides will be symmetrically the same. I can then use the T button to select trim and just trim off this end bit. Okay, so to work out how far I'm going to extrude this, I'm just going to use a little line on the bottom of this one, which is the side profile. And then if we take the dimensions for that, it's 1.7 millimeters. Okay, so before I do that, I'm just going to dimension all this lot up. Got a few, that won't fully define because it needs to know its relative position relative to the origin point, but I'm not worried about that. Everything else is defined dimensionally. So we can now extrude this. As I say, we're going to do 1.7 millimeters, which will give us the thickness. Okay, if we go back into that sketch, we can also, before we could, copy this canvas over. Before I do any further, I want to work out how much of an angle this is. So if we look at that, there to there, 82 degrees roughly. So if we spin this round onto the side profile, what we can then do is on this side face here, just draw a line upwards and define that as 82 degrees. Do the same on the other side. Again, we're not worried about how high this line's going at the moment. I'm just drawing it so that I can do two extrusions. Define that distance there to there, 82 degrees. What that then enables me to do is select. Actually, we want to go and draw a line. It's probably going to have to come out here. Again, it doesn't matter about its position. What this is doing is allowing me to select this top section, because without that it wouldn't select the whole of the top section to cut on. So if we select these profiles here, right click, extrude, we can then drag this all the way around to the other side. Okay, so it's now got that sloped inwards profile. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is create the two little holders here for pan roll clips. Okay, if I turn the canvas off initially, let's find the origin. I want to create a offset canvas from the origin because these clips don't go all the way through the sleeper. So I'm going to just offset it by, let's try 0.5 initially, and then I might have to move that because it's definitely offset, so it's sort of in the center, 2/3 of the sleeper. So we'll create a sketch off of that plane. Turn the canvas back on. And essentially these little clips, they're just like little metal circles, and the pan roll clip gets knocked into it. So if we just create sort of a circular shape like that, and then that height there, I'm going to go for 0.15. That's connecting okay. And I'm going to create just a construction line. What's that done? Yeah. Create a construction line that I want to be parallel to that line there. And then I can create another circle to define that circle's diameter. No, we didn't. So 0.4 millimeters. So I'm going to create another circle on that line, 0.4 millimeters in diameter. Let's change that line to construction. And then if we select these two profiles, I'm holding caps lock rather than shift, and then we can extrude these. Actually looks okay there to me. Let's have a look at the distance from there to there. So it's 0.381. That's pretty much dead center, so that's perfect there. Okay, so we've got these little clips here that are going to act as the pan, but you could put the holes through the middle of them if you wanted to, but I'm not going to bother because they're so small that the holes won't really print anyhow. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to mirror this across. So mirror, and I want the body, select that body, and the mirror plane is going to be the inside surface, and tell it to join. So I've now got my one sleeper. If you wanted to, you could just print out one sleeper, and you know, that'd be a job done. I'm going to save this because I may want some single sleepers in the future. So just do File, Save. Stick that into tutorials. Concrete. Oops, caps on. Sleeper. Save. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is doing these little wooden battens that go across the top. So we're just going to create them on the surfaces of the angled parts here. So I'm going to create a sketch on these flat surfaces. I'm just going to use a rectangle. I'm going to go just beyond the center point. In fact, actually, let's do it that way. Just normal rectangle, and then I'm going to use a rectangle across like this. I'm going to 0.5 on the width, and length probably 11.5 millimeters. And then if we dimension from there to there, there, there. I'm going to do that as 4. Let's put that an angle. There we go. That's the one I want. So I'm going to do 0.3 millimeters there. If I actually delete that 11.5, if we do the same dimension there to there, we know it's going to be the same length all the way across, and it's going to start and finish in exactly the same position. Relative position to that end, 3.25 millimeters. And then we can just select all of these profiles here and extrude. Okay. Well, these battens need to be higher than the concrete circles here. 1 millimeter is going to be way too thick. Probably 0.5, and then the concrete would sit on the top of these. Click on OK. If we put a mirror, a midpoint plane between that surface and that surface, we might be able to mirror this feature over. And it might sit in the correct position. Yes, yeah, that's it. Okay, so we've now got these wooden battens going across. Let's turn off that construction plane. Okay, the next thing we want, that's now all created, or should have turned that all into one complete body rather than having the... Ah, there's only 6 of them there. What we get to 7? Let's have a look at this pattern. I did only do 6. Damn. So we do 7. And if we go into here, edit, sketch, and delete this constraint here, drag that end out, redefine there to there, and that was 0.3, and that will be that fixed. We'll need to extend to 11.5. There we go. Okay, so now we've got this like small panel of sleepers. We're going to pattern these again. So these two should have joined. There we go. Pattern the body's direction is going to be, I need to find the origin to get the vertical, and we're going to come up 3 of them. So this time I am going to have them touching the wooden block here, like that. So it's 3.5 millimeters up, and there's 3 of them. Okay, so that's your block of 3, your block of 21 sleepers. Now you could, part of the reason I've done them like this is so that you can have these on the salmon all the way along, or you can have some on, some removed. If you only wanted them too high, because I've seen photos where there's only 2 high sleepers or 1 high, you know, it's completely up to you. And if you've got these little blocks, you can play around and load the salmon up as you choose. These are created separate ones. I'm just going to edit that. I am going to have to combine them. So if you use body 1 as your target and join those together. The next thing I'm going to do is, although you could print it like this and it'd probably work okay, I'm just going to create a little bit of strength on the inside. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a sketch on this center block, and I'm going to use the center point rectangle, find the midpoint on this block, on the sleep side, and I'm just going to create a block like this. It's going to be 11.6. Two, and then if I escape out the dimensions, just lagging a little bit. It's stuck in dimension for some reason. Okay, I'm going to finish the sketch and I'm going to go back into it. Okay, and then I'm going to select these profiles, extrude, and I'm going to extrude upwards into them, not that far, and I'm going to tell it to join. Okay, so you're not going to see this internal block really while it's loaded on the wagon, because it's inside of the batten here on the side, and you're not really going to be looking down the wagon. when your normal viewing angle is going to be side on. So this is going to create that little bit of strength internally. If you wanted to, you could potentially offset a line on the inside and extrude just to save a little bit of resin, but it's not going to make much difference. These are going to cost pence really to print, and offsetting that on the inside is not going to make too much of a saving. Okay. So yeah, that's how I would go about creating these, and then obviously you can print these away to your heart's content. And if we look on the salmon itself, you're going to have a picture 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these blocks per salmon. Okay, so that's a nice little load created there. Hopefully that's an interesting little video for you, and you can all go away and create these to your heart's content. So thanks for watching the video. If you've enjoyed it, please press like and subscribe.